Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a positive week, largely for the altcoins. Bitcoin sort of had a bit of an up and down week, made a new high, and then is back to pretty much where it was. So, yeah, interesting times. My sort of Bitcoin dominance, if you like, is down to 56.1%. It was sort of 60% not so long ago, so you can see the altcoins are beginning to outperform. So yeah, up 13,000, about 2.8%. Looking at the coin shares report, we got a 572 million inflow, not the hugest one, but yeah, with previous week being a down week, it's not the worst thing. Split between Ethereum and Bitcoin. Ethereum actually slightly more than Bitcoin again. Multi-asset down by 3 million. People really sort of have gone quiet on that. That was quite the sort of regular performer before. XRP and Solana, though, still getting quite consistent inflows. Solana a little bit more this time. XRP sort of had most of the weeks being higher. So, yeah, 21 million into Solana is pretty good. This is all aside from the treasury companies, so just people buying, I guess, EU ETFs. SUI minus 3 million. That's a little bit of outflow there. Cardano 1.5 million in, and some smaller inflows elsewhere. 6 million into the other ones as well. So yeah, there's some small, I guess that's Avalanche and yeah, some other ones. Not too sure what I'd be seeing the inflow there. Looking at countries, it's sort of largely quiet, no triple figures, nothing above 30 million this time. Germany and Sweden, a little bit of outflow, a little bit going into Canada. Looking at this week, starting with the Solana side, because it's just the one ETF. Has seen a little bit of inflow actually. No red days. Obviously, it's a fairly new ETF to be fair, but yeah, 5 million, couple of 0 days, and 13 million and 7 million. So pretty solid. Looking at the Ethereum side, it has been remarkably strong. We're going to get a very positive coin shares report tomorrow, it looks like. Ethereum saw the first $1 billion inflow into the ETFs from the beginning. I think sort of previous high was about 400 million. I think it was this high on Friday. But yeah, 639 into BlackRock and a hell of a lot into Fidelity. So that was good. Tuesday, 523 million, 729. Thursday, 639. So really solid days. And then Friday saw sort of a bit of an outflow across the board of the others, but 338 million into BlackRock. So that was sort of stemming the losses, really. Just a 59 million outflow. Friday was sort of a bit of a rough day on the crypto side, but yeah, you can't keep people away from BlackRock. Their marketing team obviously doing absolute wonders, or whether it's their sort of model portfolios as they try and push people just passively invest in whatever BlackRock tell them to, and at the moment they can decide that's going into Ethereum and Bitcoin presumably. And on the Bitcoin side, you can see Ethereum really is taking the limelight at the moment. 178 on Monday, 2 double-figure days with a 0 from BlackRock in there. 230 million on Friday, similar to on Thursday, sorry, similar to Ethereum's Friday. 500 million into BlackRock and outflows from pretty much all the rest. And then a small inflow into BlackRock, but outflows from the others. You're still getting Grayscale, the old Grayscale, sort of seeing a reasonable amount of outflows, and you get sort of a 80 million outflow day. So that did turn it slightly red overall. But yeah, certainly the big focus on Ethereum at the moment. Something I have been waiting for though, State of Solana for Q2 report by Masari. Always like to have a look at these, and kind of got reminded of Trump coin basically being, you sort of feel like that was a lifetime ago, but it was sort of middle of early to mid Q1. So yeah, a lot of these numbers are quite a bit down on Q1. I should have expected that. We've seen market cap obviously increase because the overall market has increased and everyone's loving altcoins a bit, but actual usage is not all that good. Daily fee payers only slightly down, but is down from Q4 last year when things were sort of really hot. Average transaction fee down 71%, so that is quite a bit. People not wanting to sort of pay through the nose to get their transactions through. Again, whether that was sort of Trump coin and Q4 just absolute madness with meme coins and things, not sure. Validators continues to be down, only 1,058. Don't think that's the end of the world. I think it can run reasonably well on sort of 1,000 from what I've read. Chain GDP, I think this is sort of the dollar amount of activity on the apps and things. 576 million. That's quite low. DeFi total value locked 8.6 billion. I expect part of that is just because token values have increased. Average daily DEX volume down 45%. Again, I think this is sort of the lack of meme coins and Trump coin, people buying, and trading Trump coin on DeFi. And yeah, stable coins obviously increasing quite a bit on Ethereum. I think still increasing on Tron, and is down 17% on Solana. So that's a little bit of a shame. I believe USDC still calls Solana the official chain of USDC. So the fact that that's going down doesn't look at all great for them. Yeah, this does just show quite how much difference the Trump coin did make. Average daily DEX volume at 36 billion on the day of the Trump launch. So that goes into Q1, and obviously we haven't had anything like that since. So the Q2 numbers are just, a normal quarter basically, sort of looking at previous quarters. Admittedly, Q4 was quite big with sort of heavy amount of meme coins, but you can see sort of the Trump coin and Melania coin and all that died off relatively quickly. Within sort of a couple of weeks, it was basically back to where it was previously, and yeah, that is why we're down basically. So I suppose really need to see what the Q3 report looks like compared to Q2. Although admittedly, it's not as if it dropped and is then, going up into this sort of altcoin season with prices going up. It was actually declining all the way through sort of May and June time. So that's not ideal. I wouldn't mind sort of Q2 being lower if it was at least accelerating during Q2, but no, it's the other way. So that's a little bit of a shame. NFT volume as well, looking very poor, down to sort of basically lows for the last year in June. And again, that is decelerating during Q2, so it's not even as if things are looking up and you'd expect a positive Q3. Not seeing too much data for July, but nothing to sort of indicate it's really hotting up. Things are looking better on Ethereum NFTs, the high priced ones, your crypto punks and that sort of thing. So yeah, still probably a high chance that I've lost quite a lot of my Solana, if not the majority, but who knows, could still come back. Did think this was positive, at least. The network usage, may not be sort of driving DEX volumes and that sort of thing, but you're still getting, this is sort of, I would say, a key metric, daily non-vote transactions. So don't really want voting transactions. That's sort of, voting on changes to the network and that sort of thing. That's not usage, I would say. Non-vote transactions is real usage, and that is up 4%, despite sort of revenue and things being down. So that's pretty good, and obviously fee payers being fairly close. Daily signers as well, only down 10%. So some of this is sort of people, just logging into their wallet on a day. Maybe they don't do a transaction. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then the fees, the average transaction fee is down 71%, but the median transaction fee down to 1/10 of a cent. So pretty cheap still. Median. So the middle transaction fee is 1/10 of the average. Still shows people are sort of paying to get their transactions through, although it was sort of 0.15 of a cent compared to 4 cents. So it's like 25 times the average. Guess you could sort of see that as a metric of how much people want to, how much people really want to get their transactions through. It was triple, in Q4 2024. So could see that, sort of ratio increasing as a good sign for the network potentially. So overall, numbers don't look great, but I guess we're sort of just getting into potentially alt season. Might have to sort of wait for some of these things to look up. There's still some good developments in here, sort of deep inside, still looking strong. Hive Mapper did a sort of brief deal, it looks like, with Volkswagen and Lyft. A partnership. It's always a bit, people get excited about these partnerships, and it's sort of, it's potentially just like a 1 week pilot or something, and then it doesn't really go anywhere, but have to see if anything comes of that. Helium Mobile sort of looking pretty good, and some of the others, lots of gaming stuff happened. You can sort of have a read through that. Decentralized science, this sort of seemed rather an unusual use. People sort of reimagining how scientific research is funded, published, reviewed and accessed. And some other notes about, obviously we had the ETF launch, and got 9 other issuers being pushed back to October 2025, but potentially in, I guess, Q4 probably. An approval for those would be pretty solid. Sounds like BlackRock aren't ready to go just yet. They're sort of saying they're not interested. I would have thought if the market expands, they will suddenly jump on, and you may sort of cynically see that as the time that all of them get approved, because that does seem to coincidentally be what happened with Ethereum and Bitcoin. And you got the digital asset treasury companies buying quite a bit more as well. Looking at the treasury companies, then, it was quite a quiet week. This Sequans, the sort of small company that had been buying a reasonable amount, they now hold 3,171, but they bought 13 this week, which is quite low. And then we had the strategy announcement, they bought 155. So yeah, sort of previous, a week or two ago, they bought 21,000 Bitcoin. So yeah, this was rather a small week, getting outbought by the UK Smarter Web company, bought 295. Yeah, interesting. Metaplanet bought 518, so they're still sort of going reasonably well, now hold 18,000. Average over 101,000, nearly 102,000. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Announcing dividends for their preferred stocks. So yeah, that's not great. Have to start paying those. And yeah, not a huge amount of other news really. Small company, DDC Enterprise, bought 120. MicroStrategy officially changed their name to Strategy. I think I'll still always call them MicroStrategy, same as I call ex-Twitter, because that's what it should be. A lot of people sort of lost their minds a little bit from the US sort of not piling into Bitcoin. I think this was always a long shot and probably something that the space doesn't really want. The plan for the US government to buy 200,000 Bitcoin a year for 5 years. That was the sort of the bill that everyone was talking about, and Secretary Scott Bessent sort of came out and confirmed that they hold between 15 and 20 billion dollars of Bitcoin, and they have their strategic reserve, but said there are no plans to buy any at the moment. He said that they confirmed they will not be selling any. And then, had to sort of, got a bit of wrath on Twitter, it seems, and they've taken notice of that and have gone back to their original. Treasury is committed to exploring budget-neutral pathways to acquire more Bitcoin. This was just sort of the, stock answer they've been giving for a while now. People sort of making jokes that they've been exploring budget neutral ways for the last sort of 6 months, and their exploring hasn't gone particularly well, it seems. I never kind of thought, or I struggled to see how there were any budget neutral ways. People sort of talking about revaluing gold, that would sort of give them $1 trillion, and then they could maybe use some of that to buy some Bitcoin. But I sort of think if you gain $1 trillion, you could use that to buy the debt, or pay back a little bit of the debt, or sort of help with the deficit in some way. So if you use that to buy Bitcoin, then you're not doing that. So it is still the same as borrowing to buy Bitcoin, basically, which just doesn't go well with the majority of the public when they're talking about sort of cuts and inflation and that sort of thing. So struggle to see how there would be any budget neutral ways aside from just seizing sort of criminally acquired Bitcoin. We're talking about the Ethereum ETF inflows. The Treasury company inflows seem to be still sort of getting stronger. Tom Lee's BitMine are looking to raise $20 billion. They've already had $4.5 billion at the market offering, and they've raised that by another $20 billion. Whether the demand is actually there for them to issue $20 billion in stock, I'm not sure, but you've sort of set a very large limit. You do get some of these firms just sort of think, well, we don't want to have to keep announcing that we're raising it and raising it and raising it, so they'll just raise it to an astronomical amount and may never get there. But if there is demand for anything like this, then $20 billion of Ethereum would be an enormous buy. It's not like 20 billion of Bitcoin. A lot of Ethereum is staked and it's just a smaller market cap anyway. So that would absolutely put a rocket under the price. Getting the 13Fs as well come out to say sort of what people are holding at the end of Q2, and starting to see some more, people that you wouldn't have expected to in Bitcoin and Bitcoin proxies. The Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund increased their Bitcoin exposure by 83%. I thought they were holding the ETFs, but it seems not. They are holding theirs through Strategy, and they've also bought some Metaplanet as well, although the vast majority of their position is in Strategy. So they're saying they hold an equivalent of 11,400 Bitcoin. Presume that's including the premium on Strategy, of course. So that's and the way they talk about it after its recent addition of 5,200 Bitcoin to its portfolio. They haven't added that Bitcoin. They've bought some Strategy, it seems. Looking at the Bitcoin hash rate then, we've had some sort of fairly large spikes up. We did hit 1.22 zeta hash. I'm saying zeta hash. Looking at the Bitcoin mining side then, we did have a relatively big spike up on Thursday, hit a new high of 1.22 zettahash. That's a hell of a number considering sort of, what was it, just a year ago, we sort of sitting at 600, 500 at times, and sort of 3 years ago at 184, August 2022. So yeah, to be 1.2 zettahash, that's incredibly high. Not what we want for the public miners, but people say it's strong for the network. I just think we're seeing some incredibly big spikes up and down at the moment, which probably isn't great for the network. Got sort of a fall to below 800 again, and has then sort of steadied around 1.03 zettahash, which is a poor number really. It means the difficulty certainly won't be going down a huge amount. We're at 10.08 minutes, so basically right on target. This could potentially sort of go up by next Friday. This was sort of Saturday, Sunday, a few days ago. It's coming forward as hash rate increases, and we're not going to get a sort of reprieve for the public miners. So yeah, unfortunate. And looking at the liquidity chart, still sort of not really catching up on sort of where I say should be. It's not predestined to follow this. It's just been potentially a coincidence that it's sort of broadly followed global M2 up to this point. Could be sort of decoupling, or we could be due a sort of catch up to this increase. It does sort of, as I keep saying, mid-September to October look a fairly rough period. So who knows? Potentially we sort of catch up and then go through a bit of a rocky period, or potentially it just smashes straight through that with sort of bullishness for other reasons. But yeah, certainly its liquidity's not breaking out to new highs. It sort of topped out in late September. So we're at a slightly lower high in middle of October, and now early November has made a slightly lower high. So yeah, that's not the best news, but if it does follow this somewhat, then potentially still got a move to like 150 or more in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe. So coins for the week, we've actually seen a decline in Bitcoin, 0.75%, Solana up 6%, Ethereum up 5.7%, Chainlink up 9.4%, the Ethereum ecosystem sort of doing relatively well. Solana sort of ecosystem, you could say, bit of a mixed bag. Radium up 9.2%, Helium down 12%. That's underperformer for the week for sure. Gito down 5.3%, Metaplex down 6.2%, and Honey, the Hive Mapper token, despite the Volkswagen and Lyft announcements, 2.87% down. So yeah, the Solana token's still not sort of doing a great deal really, but we'll see. So leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.